it was a fun joke in Spanish too for me.
I love it.
12 years ago. Oh no.
Spotted in the bottom right-hand side of the map, light shade. It is El Mexicano, Cham. Playing for GP, is he?
Mm-hmm. That he is. And up here at the top left-hand side of the map, we have the red Terran player. He is SpeCial. Thank you, Storm Gaming. And, Paula, really quickly before we get started with this, I actually want to mention for all of the wonderful viewers out there that one of the hard things about watching SpeCial's matches is that oftentimes he is playing from Korea and there's like all the cross-server stuff and oh man, but it's such a weird hour for SpeCial. Like, oh man, there's probably lag. They're both in Korea right now. They're both playing on the Korean server. They are on even footing for all of this.
Yes, indeed. I mean, not so much for this game as the openers have already been determined. I would say that they favor Chamaco. I think Chamaco is identifying and maybe even thinking that this could be something like a proxy 2 racks or something, because he opened with a pool first. I'm not sure how much larva he has saved up. It's going to be 4 servings, and that already complicates things for SpeCial.
Yeah, SpeCialaco is going to be making a bunch of these Marines from pretty far away, I have to say. But I mean, the nice part about this is that it's also faster to just rally those barracks back home if he needs to. One of the SCVs is going to reveal themselves underneath the Overlord. It looks like right as they get up to the high ground, you're going to see 2 SCVs.
Yeah, but there's already 4 circlings out. Speed is already started. I mean, this couldn't be any worse for SpeCial, who's going to continue to move on forward. Now, the advantage that SpeCial does have in this situation is that Cham's economy is hindered by default, right? He's actually lagging behind 2 workers already, and SpeCial hasn't yet committed to his command center either. So that's pretty good. Cham very smartly going on the side of the map of SpeCial, just threatening to go towards his main, which forces SpeCial to invest resources into pulling off. And because he doesn't have a Marine at his high ground, he can't really, afford to be on the other side. He needs at least 1 Marine.
Yeah, does manage to actually also prevent the bunker from going up, which is actually the one of the fears that I had, is that Cham would not be able to get that picked off in time, since the second SCV was left behind for quite a bit. But yeah, SpeCial is going to get forced all the way back, lifts up his barracks, has to float back home, but he has more than enough Marines, right, to push back the...
Because speed is done now. And that is so dangerous. So if Cham can actually consolidate this army, and if there's no bunker for SpeCial, he might just lose the game right here, right now. But Cham actually jumping the gun a little bit. He's jumping these Marines a little bit too soon. And now SpeCial is going to have the Marines in a choke, which is nice. He's not focus firing the links in the back, which he definitely should try to do. Does force a cancel to the CC, however, and there's only 1 Hellion in production.
Yeah, the barracks aren't even landed, so he doesn't even have Marines out yet, so he has to pull workers to try and repair. In the meanwhile, there's actually banelings being made. Okay, Cham is not satisfied with just putting on a little bit of pressure here. He's going to try and poke around until the Hellion pops out, backs on off before any damage is done. And here we go. This is going to be the big moment. Can SpeCial hold on after the baneling bust?
It's a double-edged sword for Cham as well. If SpeCial can hold, he will win this game. Cham is very far behind in workers, so he's gonna do what he can. SpeCial has excellent micro. Another Hellion is about to pop up. The Lynx try to get a surround on the Hellions, but instead get the SCVs, which is not ideal. But this Banelings might actually equalize things as they are looking for those SCV connections. The other Hellion is actually going to fall to the Lynx, as not everything can be paid attention to, and Cham might be looking for a strong upset here, as he has already pulled ahead in workers. Regardless of what happens here, the CC for SpeCial could make a difference, but Ravi, this is looking very difficult.
The last Hellion goes down, and there it is. Cham takes the first game very quickly with not only just a straight up hard counter to the proxy 2 racks, but just the perfect follow-up there.
Yeah, I mean that is like a gamble and a half though, and it pays off.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what you want, right? Like a little bit of luck never hurt anyone, and to go for a pull first against a double racks and to follow it up like he did, very cool.
Yeah, and I think you were making a mention of it, right? It was just as speed kicks in and everything there, SpeCial was he was like caught off guard, not ready for like those units to come forward. If he had like a bunker or somewhere, if he had gotten the Marines up to the ramp, if there like a bunch of things had gone a little bit differently because Special caught on to this, then Special would have had the tools he needed to try and react, and probably wouldn't have gone out quite the same that same way. But man, like you said, Cham just he picked all the right decisions to work out against what Special was doing.
Yeah, I mean, Baneling Bust against no Hellions is kind of the dream.
Wow.
There was one
Yeah.
Hellion out, and there was, a second Hellion on the way, but Special not being able to buy enough time with those initial Marines made it so that Cham just had free reign, and one of those Hellions was actually not microed completely, but his army, Special's army, had to be too spread because of the Banelings, and that just makes it way harder to maneuver across screens. So very well done by Cham, I want to say, at least in terms of picking his strategy. I mean, that was kind of what won him the series against Skeletor as well. So can he keep it up?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of preparation and stuff, absolutely Special is like gonna take this series seriously and everything. But I think normally when Special approaches Latin America, probably thinks a little bit of preparing for like Cham and Jim Rising, like a tiny bit. And then it's just like, all right, just make sure I'm ready and for Kelazor and stuff, because that's oftentimes who he has to face off against. And Cham and Jim Rising are a little bit more of a afterthought. Like, yeah, I should also make sure I'm ready for them. So Cham, on the other hand, is like, at some point, I need to beat Special. Like, I will run into Special. I should have a plan for him.
That is an excellent point, Ravi. And unfortunate for Special. I mean, he's going to be trailing in this series, but it's just the first game. I think he will be able to recover still. And in the top right-hand side, however, the man who's going to have something to say about that, Chamaco.
Down here in the bottom left-hand side of the map, going by the username Special, he is Juanito from Psystorm Gaming. Okay, I'm waiting to see if there was going to be an early pool again from Cham, if he was feeling like he really wanted to make this a cheeky quick series. But yeah, just going to be that good old hatch first. He's going back to basics.
Yeah, this map is very difficult for CBT as well, so I wouldn't have minded something cheeky, and we still might see something cheeky. Because I mean, I don't get tired of saying this, but this map for Terran is just kind of the dream for tanks. There's just so many locations with ramps and rocks and just ledges that hit the other side, and a lot of really good positions where tanks basically get force fields for free, right? So it's it's a tough one. It's a tough one for Zerg, and I think that Cham will probably do something cheeky.
Yeah, he is absolutely known as a bit of a roachy boy as well. Has many mid-game attacks that many would classify as all-ins. But, I think that there is a little bit of diversity there, but for sure, Cham and mid-game are two things that words that I feel are very synonymous in terms of where he draws his biggest strengths a lot of the time.
Yeah, most definitely. And Special shaking his head actually a little bit on the camera. I'm not sure what that's about or what he's flustered with. I have to assume something in this game, as he's probably pretty immersed. This is an important match for him. But yeah, something didn't go quite right. And let's see what that might be as the game unfolds. Cham is going to be taking that third base. The Reaper will make its way into the natural base and poke at a drone, but not for much longer. Actually going after it. Wow, what a daredevil. He gets it. Beautiful micro.
Yeah, very, very well done. Gets out of there before the queen even pops out. Wait a second. Where did the hatchery... Oh.
The drone moved over.
Yeah, okay. I was like, wait a second. Did the Reaper kill this when I wasn't looking? Yeah, I guess he's going to have the more forward third base location. Kind of interesting that Cham had sent the drone over to that other third base first.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that was about. Like, he kind of changed his mind a little bit. Maybe he was anticipating that the Reaper path would be able to interrupt the third at the triangle, and once the Reaper went past, he decided to go back. I'm not really sure, but in any case, he will take the triangle.
Yeah, it does make me wonder, the triangle location, a little bit more of an open spot, and also a little bit expanding like closer to your opponent in some ways. So it does make me wonder, with all the discussion we had about going for earlier game attacks or mid game attacks and stuff, if that is something that Cham is thinking about. Cham getting a little bit of supply block with an Overlord about to pop, but is going to need to start up another one soon.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility. I mean, it's also just good straight up for spreading creep. And if you were playing Muta, it can be pretty good for defending triangle bases, as your Muta are always, no matter where they're positioned, they're kind of in range. There will be that run by that you're woeing about. An Evo Chamber would have been nice, and Cham is not doing that. So let's see. He does get a very nice round, just peeling off enough workers there, and only loses 2 workers in the process of killing, what, 4 Hellions?
That was actually a really good trade there overall for Cham, killing off the entirety of that Hellion force, just knowing that you don't have to worry about it. And yeah, now there's a Banshee that's going to be coming out with Cloak, sure. And look at that. Cham even gets the immediate scat on that with the Overlord and everything, so he can start preparing for that, throws down some Spore Crawlers. That might be coming up a little bit on the later side, but at the end of the day, he doesn't have to worry about positioning versus both the Hellions and the Banshee at the same time. It's just Queens, get ready for the Banshee. That's all you have to worry about right now.
Yes, indeed. A lot more links than were needed were forced from Cham. In spite of that, of course, that was a brilliant trade, and those links are not going to be completely useless. But he wishes he had, 3 or 4 more workers than he has, because that would be a considerable lead. Special finding a worker here with the Banshee, but that's about all that he's been able to do. Now looking for the gas openings, as the Spore Crawler cannot cover everything. Will find himself a tumor as well, but not much more.
Yeah, even without Lair Tech having the Overseers ready and everything, it seems like he's been able to handle the Banshees pretty well so far. There's a second Banshee heading across the map, but there's that Spire that you were talking about coming on out for good old Cham. So we'll see what he's going to be able to do with that, with I have to say, a pretty strong opening so far.
Yeah, it's been a brilliant defense. The Spire is going to be good for multiple reasons, including this initial Banshees, right? They're going to be the cleanup crew in time, so that'll put a stop to those. And like I said, with the triangle setup that he has, it's very easy to jump between those 3 bases and defend. So Cham might just be looking to play a macro game off of this.
Yeah, I would not hate it at all. Now, probably will want to make an Overseer at some point. Maybe when the Spire finishes or something, he'll start up an Overseer, pair it up with the Mutas, try and go after those Banshees. But Banshees are already backing off pretty far. I like that Cham is just hunting around and making sure, for example, his 4th base location can still come down safely without the Banshees harassing. But Specials finally got up more units, with Stim getting closer and closer to finishing up, ready to try and start poking away at creep and keeping Cham a bit more on the defensive.
Yeah, at the same time, however, unfortunate timing for Special, because his army just left and Cham is going for a Ling Rambai on the left-hand side of the map. So that is very, very fortunate for him. And as he sees this army of Special, surely I thought he was going to go into the 3rd. Instead, he's going to go and try to defend, but these Queens are going to suffer a little bit too much damage. Okay, Cham thinks better of it. Actually, rather indecisive, his Links are parked nowhere at the moment. Now finally going after the SCVs at the 3rd. Special will try to evacuate, but does Special even care? He's going to grab a few drones, focusing mostly on the hatchery for now. The Mutas are out, but there's no ground army to kind of like help out there. And the Marines are actually going to shift on the focus fire for the Mutas for a second and then go back for the hatchery. So it will go down. The Banshee's also just trying to pick up some straddling drones. What's the word? Straddling?
Struggling, I feel like is the only word that's coming to mind right now, because oh my god.
Wardy knows the word. What was it?
Straggling? Oh yeah, the stragglers. Yeah,
straggling.
I feel like Cham is definitely struggle boat right now, because he just lost 2 of his bases, all of his, or like half of his Queens, and also a handful of drones over there in exchange for not that many units. Now the Mutas are out, but there's enough Marines back at home to help defend. He's still got the Medivacs and everything around. He's got 1-1 now finished up, well ahead of Cham. This is a bit of a disaster, I feel like, for Cham, right?
Yeah, it's pretty disastrous. I mean, losing the hatchery, your 3rd base is never going to be a good look for you. And the Mutas, I mean, they're pretty strong, but they also got scouted on the other side of the map, right? Which gives Special plenty of time to work with. At the same time, with these Zerglings, those are a surprise for Special, who has to now unload at his natural base or at his 3rd base. Lucky for him, there is a turret there on the SCVs as well to try and help buffer. Most of his army, however, is on the other side of the map, trying to take down the third of Cham. Now, the third of Cham cannot float, so that's a little bit worse for him than it is for SpeCial, who manages to put up his supply depots in time, and for some reason, the SCVs at the third have not been killed or even threatened, so SpeCial is just gonna take this one amidst all the chaos.
Actually, just a surprising game there. I'm a little bit of a loss for words. It really did feel like there was a moment where Cham was doing really well. He had a lot of his kind of eggs in the right baskets and everything, but he had his lings, like you said, getting ready for that big run by. Unfortunately, right as SpeCial was coming in with his sort of double medevac drop and everything, and also just he never made an overseer, so the queens were getting pushed back and not able to deal with the banshees, and the banshees paired up with the marines, the spore crawler gets focus fire down, like everything just started falling apart while his zerglings, like you said, were not even attacking in. It really did feel like those 10 seconds Cham just was not ready for any of it to happen.
Yeah, and that just happened twice in that game where his links were kind of idle amidst the chaos, and that worries me a lot, right? Because SpeCial is a wonderful multitasker, and it didn't seem from the feel of that game that Cham is able to keep up. And in the way that Cham beat Kelazor and just took the first game from SpeCial, it was mostly just through a strong one punch, right? Like tactics that are with his army kind of being all in the same place and a cohesive punch, rather than that split type scenario where he's having to keep up with the likes of SpeCial. So if SpeCial can get to that comfort zone, I think if he looks out for the early game, just stabilizes and gets to the part where he gets to multitask Cham, then he will do exactly this.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, and I think that mechanically, SpeCial is probably considered the strongest stronger player by most people, and it is Cham's onus to try and find ways to win that are going to give him nice advantages in, say, like the build orders or the openings or the positional play and things like that. So that last game, it seemed like he was able to get into a good spot, but then actually got a little bit caught out of position. And like you said, the multi-prong also really messed with him. But here we go. We're moving into a tied up series now in this best of 5, tied up 1-1. As we start up here on the top left-hand side of the map, top of the blue, Zerg player. He is Cham from Team GP.
I'm playing for Stormy, the bottom right-hand side of the map. The red Terran player, it is Juanito.
What do you keep calling Cham? Chamito? No, not Chamito.
Chamaco.
Chamaco. Where is that from?
Chamaco just means young man in Mexican. It's not even in Spanish. It's Mexican.
Oh, okay. Today I learned.
Yeah, Chamaco. That's what I've always called them. I usually give people like a lot of people like nicknames different than their nickname. I'm not sure why.
Do you feel like there's ever a point where you need to stop calling him Chamaco because he's no longer a young man? Like when he turns 30,
relative to me, he'll always be young, right?
That's true. I think about that sometimes when we're always just every single year we talk about Raynor and Clem and Goblin and Future, and we're just like always, yeah, they're so young and so talented. It's like I just imagine 10 years from now we're gonna be like, yeah, and Raynor, Clem, just really young players. I remember when they started playing in WCS at 16. It's just like, oh my god, they must be so sick of it. They're gonna be like married and have a kid, and we're still just gonna be like Raynor and Clem, that young talent.
I mean, if your grandpa and grandma probably feel like, my grandparents feel I'm pretty young. For sure.
Oh, okay. Your family is kinder than my
Wait, really?
My family is like, yeah, you're getting pretty old. I mean, you start thinking about, your knees and arthritis and stuff runs in our family, and get a little chubby. Like, you're not gonna be able to lose that weight now. Like,
my mom is kind of, my mom says stuff like that.
That's part of the deal for us.
My mom is so funny. She told me that just recently she came on a trip to visit, and she said I need to lose weight because she said, and I quote, "You're already short. You can't also afford to be fat. Then you'll just look like a cube." Like a cube.
Oh my god!
It was brutal.
Oh, your mom?
I was like, oh, mom, you're funny.
That's actually hilarious.
Yeah, I love my mom.
That is pretty great. I do want to note, so this was a pool first like opening really quickly, early pool there from Cham, but he is doing something interesting. He's pooling up his lings before moving in. Doesn't have like he has speed on the way. Yeah. Reaper spots it, and there's no SCVs here already.
Oh wow. Yeah. Nice. I thought SpeCial canceled an SCV. Did he? Oh, nice jukes. Wow. Are you kidding?
Oh my god. I mean, I know that the Olympics are happening right now, but I didn't think that we would end up seeing, you know, the 50-yard dash that's on top of pole vaulting right there. Oh my god.
Oh man.
How did that Reaper survive?
would have survived the Stampede if he could do that. I'm just saying, like, that was insane. I've never seen a Reaper survive like 10 lings in front of him.
Yeah, that,
you know,
repeatedly surrounding him. I think that may have been one of those moments where Cham was just really paranoid he was gonna lose this surround. So he kept doing like the right click micro to try and get the surround. So he'd get the surround, but then kind of like overdid it a little bit as the Reaper moves around. Ah, man. Very, very quick back and forth over there. But yeah, now that the Reaper survives, it can help join in with the fray over here. And those lings have effectively done nothing for how early they were made so far.
Yes, indeed. So, the Hellion will get surrounded, however, as it's not being paid attention to. But I like what SpeCial is doing. His game plan has kind of shifted into these units that kind of survive. He has shifted into just being alert for those early games, right? Like he didn't have units on the low ground to get picked off. Now he's opening, sure, with BC a little bit uncharacteristic, but first with a Banshee, in case Cham goes for those virtual links that he likes so much. So I really like the game plan for SpeCial right now because he's playing like he is the better player, and it might just work out. And after killing all the links, bring him move.
Evo Chamber does finally go down, but still the Hellion's finding some pretty decent splash damage. He needs 1 or 2 more shots, still gets 7 workers, which is not too shabby given how this game has been going.
Yes, indeed. Not too shabs.
Still has a decent number of Hellions back at home as well, and some Marines to protect his own third base and ensure that there's not some absurd amounts of damage or something that happens. Then Zerglin's gonna run straight into those Hellions and realize this is not where they want to be. The full wall, that is not a full wall, right? That has a little gap.
It's a tiny gap. I mean, if you go through that gap, you're gonna be pretty choked up anyway up against the Hellions.
I'm not worried about when the Hellions are home. I'm worried about after, and there's a link left by.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, that's very true. But I'm sure SpeCial will plug that hole by then. If not, right meow. Will he do it? Let's zoom in on the wall. Meow.
We'll see.
There it is.
There it is. Yeah, there you go. I doubted Juan. That was my bad. Oh boy. Well, Cham. Oh boy. This is not the kind of fight he wants to be taking.
Yeah, this is a little bit rough with the Hellions also making their way here to help out. And they're trying to find good lines of fire as well to kind of damage multiple queens at once, unless he can find drones in the backline, which is exactly what he does. Now he's going to run into the natural base that DC barely survives. He will not actually. The creep will enable the queens to go and kill it. A little bit of a mistake from SpeCial. If he thought he was going to die, maybe microing the Hellions, but he could have actually gone towards the bushes and he would have survived, I think.
Oh yeah, I completely forgot about the line of sight blocker. That's a good point. But I still feel like even after losing the battlecruiser, even though the battlecruiser is a very expensive unit, SpeCial has done an absurd amount of damage, and he's actually still coming in and still roasting and toasting a few more drones. Also gonna get a bunch of lings over here, but I mean, actually, this was a little bit more expensive.
Yeah, still kills a lot of lings, uses the choke to his advantage made by that poor crawler and then by the minerals of Cham. So, you know, SpeCial really maneuvering beautifully throughout this match. He's still ahead in supply and going for that mechs. Looking pretty good.
Yeah, and I think he's done a really good job of, like you said, killing a bunch of those lings. He's just keeping the supply for both sides low. And in low numbers, the Hellions versus like low numbers of lings, you can micro and do a lot with that. The battle cruiser is going to be able to do a lot of good damage if they can find these little opportunities to poke in where the queens are trying to cover a lot of ground. This is definitely setting himself up to be very, very aggressive.
Yes, indeed. All right. I mean, do you feel like SpeCial and his mech has the potential to be aggressive himself then?
Well, he was, at least from what I saw, he was adding on a few cyclones and stuff. So I assume that this is actually going to go into battle next.
I think so. I think you're right about that. I mean, there is tanks now being added as well, so maybe it's just a preventive measure for Mutas or something like that if he didn't want to make Thors. He is getting 1-1 upgrades, is what makes me think that maybe he's just willing to sit back at least until then. Battlecruiser will find a little bit more damage. And yeah, with those tanks being added now, I think that he's happy with the harassment. He'll also spot the Corruptors. And yeah, I mean, this is so much.
Yeah, this is that moment when we're like, oh, my queens don't actually kill 12 queens fast enough. They just ignore the queens and then kill all of my drones. So only 5 workers going down, so not the end of the world, but it is just still a lot of less mining time, a lot of attention having to be paid to all of that, forcing out now all these roaches and stuff. Well, it's gonna get to be a not so fun point, because this is where I think Special should just be kicking up into high gear pretty soon, where he's just constantly throwing stuff at his opponent while expanding and knowing that his expansions are safe, because if he's getting attacked on his side of the map, it's probably because Cham is not actually leaving a lot of units back at home.
Yeah, let's see. I mean, there's more and more Hellions, and Cham has gotten caught off guard over and over again, but now at least he has roaches. The Evo chamber now is made promptly, and another one. So those Hellions will be completely locked out of that base. Is there equal defense at the natural base? Unfortunately not. There's a tiny gap, and now the drones are roasted as 7 of them will go down. Ooh, so not too bad. Special does get a full scout of the Spire and whatever's going on in the natural base. Gets a full count as well of the Corruptor, so has to be a little bit more careful with these BCs as he sets up for his own eventual big punch.
Yeah, I have to say, I think that the went actually decently well at the end of all of it, but man, I just have to also imagine that Cham, as a player who is dealing with just the constant Hellion run-bys, you're consistently having to pull all your drones, and then the battlecruiser show up, and then more Hellions show up, and it was that multi-pronged harassing you were talking about before. You're starting to see it does have an effect. It really does start to kind of take a toll on you. You have to manage all of the harassment and also macro behind them.
Yeah, draws out the Corruptors, only to Yamato 2 of them before getting out. Cham, of course, had a number of Corruptors to not take any damage from those battlecruisers, but unfortunately for him, he was elsewhere with those Corruptors, probably chasing after the Hellions with the legendary F2 button.
Yeah. Well, now we have the Cyclone Magfield Accelerator upgrade coming on out, and that's going to be a little bit annoying for Cham once the Cyclones start adding in a little bit of DPS, because then those Roaches and Ravagers that have been building up, or even the Corruptors that have been adding up, are finally going to have something that's actually picking away at them, not just the drones being picked off by some of the Hellions and everything. So we can already see that Special has been very, very on top of just taking all of his expansions and being on top of that macro.
Yeah, he really has been, and he really is going to continue to be. Also adding those watchtowers will protect him against, or will give him a heads up as far as any attacks incoming from those areas. So he is looking extremely strong now with those CCs also coming online to secure his, or further his economic lead that he has had all game long, just about. I mean, I've never seen more Hellion Rambais, I think, and more successful Hellion Rambais, just one after the other. Special he's really showing off here.
Yeah, and even though the supplies are even, I have to say Cham has done a really nice job in this game in a lot of ways. And the harassment he's been facing off against is actually just a little bit nuts. But well, okay, you know what? If the Lings get a big surround on a lot of these tanks, still a lot of them manage to survive. Handful of them start to get taken out by the Ravagers. It seems like at the end of the day, I believe Special still cleans this up, but it is very costly for him. That damage on the other side of the map has to be big from the battle cruisers.
Yeah, and the Corruptors are in position this time around, so they're not really gonna find too much. Just will snipe one extra drone before leaving. 10 more go down. How many drones have fallen in this game? I'm curious.
57. Wow.
Damn.
Not too shabby for sure. Cham was actually up at 90 workers not too long ago. He's gonna start adding on a few more to get back up a bit on that worker count. But I have to say, the army that Special just lost is a bit of an expensive one. It wasn't just Hellion Cyclone. It was also all of the siege tanks. And I'm actually pretty amazed, even with how many factories he has, that he's already reproduced so many tanks.
Yes, indeed. His microcycles are amazing, and he's already getting that 3-3 as well, so not dropping the ball as far as upgrades are concerned. Special has been angered, and that is one cool thing about Special, Ravi, is that he can really play like a lot of styles. You know, like he's comfortable in mech and in bio. A lot of players can have their signature move and don't play the other style, but Special can do it all.
Yeah, he's a very, very diverse, well-rounded player. Solid player in a lot of ways. Now, top right-hand side, there is that Ling run by and also some Ravagers trying to put some harassment on there. Pick off a lot of workers. At the end of the day, the battlecruisers are going to reign supreme in the air and keep the actual base alive itself. At the same time, he sets up another base in the bottom left and gets ready to start pushing in very, very close to that hatchery right there.
Yes, indeed. So he's going to be clearing some creep here, sieging them tanks, and as you said, he's going to continue to push on forward towards that hatch. Now Cham has had enough and actually catches a lot of the tanks once again with those circlings before the rest of the army can collapse. And now with Baneling speed collapsing onto the army that doesn't have the tank coverage, right? Like mostly Hellions and Cyclones, which are clumped up and do take extra damage from those Banelings. Unfortunately for him, he is kind of running out of gas, has to pull back and regroup. The Vipers didn't really partake in that engagement. So let's see if he can actually crush this army on the second round, because Special is reinforcing, but I mean mech, it kind of wants to be consolidated. It kind of wants to be strong in numbers in those backlines, and right now Special isn't pretty good positions.
Yeah, Special consistently finding these good positions, and now battlecruisers facing off against the Corruptors, actually still finding some decent trades over there with not only the Yamato and Teleport out, but I think the rest of the battlecruisers are still fighting over there and still taking some decent trades. Yeah, actually pretty much ended up winning that fight and forcing out even more Corruptors. Blinding Clouds are massive over here. I like that Special actually takes the opportunity to just lock onto the Vipers before kind of starting to back off with those Cyclones. The units he can get out with, he will, but he's taking out some of the more expensive units that are going to force Cham to sit back for a little while longer to remake them.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I mean, for Special, a lot of his supply is tied to those battlecruisers, and that's why his army seems so small all the time. Right? He has a lot of workers compared to most Terrans at this stage of the game, even though he has a lot of economy, a lot of orbital commands that he could be using instead, and he has 4 battlecruisers, which are incredibly supply intensive. So I don't mind it, just because he's doing a good enough job that he shouldn't die on any kind of like counter attacks, right? But yeah, I don't know, I would almost want to see a bigger army, but the BCs are doing fine, right? It's just a different approach.
Yeah, it's less of a kind of immediately just bulldoze your opponent with your big old scary army approach. Nice micro over there from Cham. Is not going to let the Hellbats trade out a little bit better versus a few Zerglings as they go out. But yeah, I do think that Special, he was making a lot of headway before, but again, losing a lot of his army there, especially those Blinding Clouds, do slow him down, and that gives Cham the ability to start taking some of these expansions. Now the battlecruisers come in, though, going to be able to easily shut down this expansion over here. The Corruptors are nowhere to be seen. Battlecruisers might even just continue to push forward.
Yeah, and it's getting a little bit dangerous in numbers because Cham is actually maxed out. I'm not sure that he even has... Yeah, exactly. He has 4 Corruptors for 4 battlecruisers with Yamato, so he has 0 Corruptors. He just doesn't know it yet. So he's gonna go for this attack, and all these rocks are not broken. The chokes are nasty. Of course, a Blinding Cloud will help a lot, but I mean, you don't want to move into this type of concave for Terran, especially amongst planetary fortresses. The battlecruisers are not even necessary, and Cham is going to lose his entire army while the battlecruisers kill another 18 workers on the other side of the map. And like we mentioned, they are unanswered. Ravi, this is...
And Special decisively takes the defense over there with a really, really stellar setup over there. And Cham, I guess maybe feeling forced like he had to do something at that point, because yeah, attacking into that kind of choke point, you don't do willingly unless you feel like there's a time pressure or something else. And maybe it was partially the battlecruisers already sniping off the bottom left and already attacking that other base, realizing he didn't have anything to answer them. Maybe it was just a lot of other factors of how the game was going, but Cham really did not have the best fight there.
Yeah, I think that was probably it. The fact that the battlecruisers were unanswered. So what are you going to do? Just take cold damage? Well, you have to sacrifice some army. So do you just try to go for a big punch with all of your army, or do you just throw away, you know, like 1/3 of your army to then look to answer the harass, which I mean, both options
Yeah.
are kind of impossible, right?
Yeah, it's being put in a very difficult spot there, but that is going to give SpeCial the lead in this series. Oddly enough, for the first time, he is going to be up now, finally, 2-1 so far in this best of 5, and that is going to also put him at match point as we get ready to move on to Blackburn for game number 4. Cham had a really strong start with game number 1, but it's also, you have to remember how well everything worked out in the first game, where it was a build order counter and also another risk on the, like, what SpeCial was going to follow up with, and Cham went for a very aggressive follow-up that worked out well. Since then, Cham has not quite had nearly as much luck.
Not nearly. And yeah, that build, that game order, that game 1 build order win, basically, right? It's just extremely difficult to overcome, I think, for anyone from in that position, because you just kind of, yeah, I mean, your build just loses. I mean, you're just at a disadvantage to start, and then Baneling Bust pre-planned with a link speed on top of it. It's like Cham just knew that SpeCial was gonna 2 racks, and he prepared a perfect build for it or something. Whereas the other games have been sort of, you know, fought out through different stages, but mostly kind of one-sided when it comes down to it. And now it's Blackburn. It's a difficult map for Zerg, and it's a map where Cham has already kind of revealed his Triumph card against Skelasur in that roach sneaky attack. So I don't think SpeCial's gonna be falling for that one. But let's see if he has something else up his sleeves. In the bottom right-hand side of the map, the blue Zerg player, it is Cham.
And over here in the bottom left-hand side of the map, the red Terran player from Psystorm Gaming. He is Juanito SpeCial. I think it's a really good point that Cham had some shenanigans for this map, but he's already sort of revealed them at this point. But I do think that this is one of the maps that, like, yeah, you can have shenanigans and maybe even multiple types of shenanigans ready.
Yeah. Is that the bear from Bleach that Juanito has in his shelf?
No,
right?
Hold
it's
on.
Not.
Let me see.
There's a yellow bear there. It's a Pokemon? It's a Pikachu, maybe?
I don't think it's a Pikachu. I'm like, you have no idea how
You
much
already said
effort-
it's a Pokemon.
Oh, it is a
Already would know.
Pikachu. It is a okay. So I took a
Pikachu?
screenshot of it and then opened it up in Paint and enhanced like 10x. It's a Pikachu that's still in the wrapping. It's still in a plastic bag, which is why it looks a little deformed.
Oh,
But
I see
like the red cheeks and everything.
Yeah, I thought his cheek was his mouth, but it's his cheek. I see.
Yeah.
I see. So his ears are down, restrained by the plastic bag.
Juanito loves Pokemon, man, but he's pretty brutal to him.
Yeah, he doesn't treat him well. That's for sure.
Literally keeping him in a plastic bag.
Did you know that Juanito's mom's name is Maru?
I did not.
How cool is that? I mean,
That's pretty cool.
yeah, I mean, you're destined to be good at this game, I guess. Not Terra in particular.
I guess so. But he was best friends with like TY and stuff, right? Why wasn't he best friends with Maru? Or maybe he wasn't best friends with Maru because his mom's name is.
Oh, maybe that
It's
would
like
be
a
weird,
rebellious
man. It's like,
phase.
yeah. Maybe he didn't want to introduce Maru to his mom. Be like, Mom, this is Maru. It's like, no.
Yeah. You know, when I meet friends, the first thing I think is, can I introduce them to my mom?
Yeah.
That's where my head goes to.
Well, it's very common in Latin America for sure. Like all of
really?
my all of my friends. Very nice catch this time around. No extra maneuvers from the Reaper. But yeah, all of my best friends' moms in Latin America, I call them aunt. That's the standard.
That's very common also in like okay, not American Indian like Native American culture, but like Indians that are in America. And, like we always call all of our like family friends or our friends'
uncle.
families like auntie and uncle.
Yeah.
So that's true. But we don't make an active effort to introduce them. In fact, I think most people avoid it a little.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. I mean, for us, it's just, I mean, you go to their house and they're there, their mom's in the
Well, for us, or at least for like me, it's like, if you introduce them, inevitably, your friends will be nice to them. And then the first thing you'll hear is just like, why can't you be nice like, you know, Sean? Why can't you be a good person like these other people? Like, what, you know, they're so successful. What was their SAT score? Your SAT score really wasn't. It's like, oh no, I just set up the comparison points.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Very interesting. All right, well, we have Hellions here.
Hope my mom.
Why don't the
listening
queens
today.
move as fast? Your mom is not listening.
I hope not.
I hope my mom is listening so that she knows.
Yeah, you've actually been pretty nice. I was gonna say you've been pretty kind about your mom and everything, and you've been real about what she says.
Yeah, my mom's cool. I like her.
Yeah.
She's
like
funny.
you were.
Go on.
She does sound very funny. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It does seem like you were saying there was a little bit of the Ling run by attempt and stuff, but at the end of the day, it has been a pretty passive game. Just a couple of creep tumors going down, and there's just the early Reaper that Cham got a nice snag on. But it is going to go into like a third base. There's been no signs of the gold base or anything being taken for either side, so it is playing out a little bit normal. And of course, you do not, as the Zerg player, take the forward third base on this map. That is actually just a suicide move.
It's a lot of Hellions, and Blue Flame is being researched. So we're going to see SpeCial maybe even go around and do the thing that Cham did, but with Hellions.
Oh my God.
Or maybe not. I mean, Cham has very good coverage as well. I'm sorry.
This is like an old school, like Wings of Liberty style thing, right? Where you get up one reactor Hellion, one tech lab, and you just get a Blue Flame. I mean, in Wings of Liberty, you did this on one base, but this is really tough to deal with.
Yeah, especially because the Roach Warren is not even done, and the Cyclones are here to actually deal with Queens and potentially straggling Roaches as well. So this is pretty cool. I am quite liking this attack. He's gunning down all the Queens. I mean, he could go after the drones, and the Queens are probably like, take my life. And they're like, okay, I'll take your life.
There are
now I'll
8
go
lings.
after your drones.
There's literally just 8 lings on the map. There are 0 lings on the map. There's nothing but drones, actually, now.
5 Roaches in production, however, that'll help, but there's not going to be very many drones left over after this. That is a barbecue. Very American, as the Hellions choose not to move into the main, actually. They will go instead to the third, where another Evo Chamber will get thrown down, but not on the other side, so the drones are dropped, and now they actually clump up as well. I think one more of those shots and that'll be it. I mean, it's 33 workers down. The Cyclones are gonna on retreat catch some Roaches, which get nicely microed by Cham. But I mean, this is no bueno.
No bueno is a good way of putting it. It's also worth mentioning that SpeCial still does have a finished third base that's turning into an orbital command now. This is the reactionary all-in. This is the moment where Cham says, I have no choice but to try and play drastically far behind against a player who has kind of been outplaying me this series, or I just go for the all-in and hope and pray. And he's of course going to take the latter of the two, but it's still a very tough ask right now.
It's very, very difficult. He has no chance to make this happen.
I'm going to give you that one because you know what? You've been such a pleasure to be with around today. That joke did not bother me.
Oh, right, you're contagious is what it is.
Is this what I've been doing to people?
Yes, are you kidding? Yeah.
I didn't know.
Oh my God,
SpeCial going to be able to get those siege tanks up on the high ground to deal tons and tons of damage. Cham is really doing quite a bit over here. He's even going to be able to get in on top of that siege tank on the high ground. Is killing off a lot of workers. But remember, SpeCial has lost a handful of workers. He needed to lose 40
he's
more.
But he's still in the process of losing them. I mean, that Cyclone was carelessly microed. Okay, this time looks like SpeCial will stabilize.
Yeah, I still think SpeCial, just being on 3 CC at this point, he needed to lose like 40 more workers to make that even.